Hello again, everyone. All of us talked a lot about ideas and what are good ideas and what to build, and we'll just dive in deeper into that with Aaryaman and Gaurav Sen here. And there's just practically nobody better in the ecosystem right now to talk about this specific bit. So I'll just hand it over to them, and they'll introduce each other in a very unusual request. Here you go, Aaryaman and Gaurav.
Okay, awesome. Thanks
right.
a lot, Neil. And thank you, Denver. Thank you, everybody from Team DevFolio, and for having us here. And thank you, all of you audience members who are about to hear us. So I'd like to just do a poll first, if I can. I'm gonna just write. How many of you know Gaurav Sen? Let me start with. Okay, we have a poll running. You guys can say yes or no on the poll. And
Say no if I owe you any money. I don't know you. Yeah.
Wow, most people know you. Actually, it's very close. It's 50-50. But that's still extremely good. I think many people. So many of you, fantastic. Many of you know Gaurav, and so that's amazing. And it's likely that you would know him because Gaurav is a fantastic, educator and YouTuber who is very popular in the global dev community, and he makes videos on systems design and sort of like interview questions and things that you need to know and need to learn as a young developer. So Gaurav, you started your career in DirectEye, right? You graduated from engineering college in Mumbai, then you went to DirectEye, and at DirectEye you were doing competitive programming, and you started a YouTube channel called Gaurav Sen GKCS, and then you joined Uber as a software engineer, and now you started a company called InterviewReady. And while you were doing this, you created a YouTube channel that has 300,000 subscribers. Is that right?
Yeah, that's true. Okay. Thanks, Aaryaman. And yes, it's been a long journey. And now that you say it, there's been a lot of good moments in it. Yeah, thank you for that. Actually, that pretty much sums up everything that I was looking for. Yeah, when it comes to the marketing.
So let me ask you another question. How many of you guys have seen our videos together?
Yeah, that's an interesting question.
Let's see if people have or haven't. No, 100% no so far. So that's okay. So how many of you guys?
4%, 7%, 6%.
Very few. It's understandable because those are different videos. Let me ask this question: how many of you have heard of iSPIRT Foundation? Here, guys. Here's one more last poll for you.
Yeah, almost 2/3. Or
yeah. Great. That means there's a lot of new people who I can introduce to this today, and that's something that's always very exciting for me. So if you guys don't mind, I'll introduce myself and kind of like what I do. I mean, actually, I do a bunch of things. One of the things I do is I invest in early stage startups through a fund called Prophetic Ventures. But I also volunteer with an organization called iSPIRT Foundation. iSPIRT stands for Indian Software Product Industry Roundtable. Now, I'm sure all of you guys have used UPI, right? Or heard of UPI? What Google Pay, Phone Pay, WhatsApp Pay, all of them run on UPI. So UPI is one of the projects that is a brainchild of iSPIRT. Of course, several government institutions, RBI, NPCI, and others have played a really important role. But I bet many of you didn't know that actually a non-profit organization was actually responsible for helping to craft the architecture and technical specifications of UPI. And the reason that's cool is because it shows that we actually have really high quality architects and designers and engineers in India, and those people have the respect of government. They have the respect of regulators, and regulators work with us to actually build public digital infrastructure for the country. And they build that infrastructure in such a way that third-party app developers like you guys can get access to it and build on top of it, which is why we have phone pay, UPI, Paytm on UPI, all these things. So there's a bunch of new public infrastructure which is coming out, which will be either open source or it'll have open APIs, and it's being made for guys like you to actually go and build things which can elevate India to the next level. We already have one of the best payment systems in the world in UPI, and we want to take that into the future. We want to take it into the future in such a way that now not only can you make payments, super low cost payments through UPI, all the data that you generate by making those payments or in the course of your daily lives, going to a hospital, going to a bank, whatever, all that data, you should be able to leverage that data. You should be able to click a button and say, I want to send my data in a machine readable format to whoever I want, to a bank, to a lender, to a doctor. All of that stuff is happening. We are moving into a digital economy. It's a really exciting period in India's history, and it's why I'm so happy and grateful that Devfolio invited us here today, because there's never been a better time to build, and we are kind of here to chat with you guys and help you get hyped for that. So that was my long-winded intro.
No, and also Aaryaman, you have been doing this for a while now. So you are, I mean, an entrepreneur for what, the past couple of years now. And Aaryaman is also a volunteer at iSPIRT, like he mentioned. But he's actually the guy who contacted, you know, he's the guy who's handling large part of the DEPA public relations, should I say?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people work in iSPIRT, and when we say work, we mean people volunteer. So like iSPIRT doesn't pay me. I just help them out because I think what they're doing is super cool. So
Which
I
it
get
is.
involved and I do what I can. And Gaurav actually has made a couple of videos on these topics. So if you guys are interested in learning more, double clicking on what we've been talking about, then check out Gaurav's channel. And there are some videos that talk about both the health data sharing framework and the financial data sharing framework.
Yeah, especially the first one, guys. You can look at that because it really talks about the superb innovation which is going on at iSPIRT when it comes to taking people's financial data and empowering them with that. So if you want to see system design in practice and you want to see it happening in India at a large scale, at a huge scale, basically India scale, 1 billion people, right, at the end of the day, then have a look at that video. There's Aaryaman there. There's also Sid, who's also a volunteer at iSPIRT. There's some really interesting stuff happening. Okay, but Aaryaman, I think I'll start off with the questions now.
Okay.
There's a lot of questions that a person who's in college. So I don't know. I should probably take a poll, but I'm assuming a lot of you are already in college, are engineers in college, and are in computer science. So I do have some experience about participating in hackathons as a college student. And here are some common questions which used to come in my mind even after actually I graduated. So we have Aaryaman here. We can ask him some really good questions because he's on the entrepreneur side. Uh, okay, the first question I'd like to ask you is how important is marketing and sales to entrepreneurs,
Hmm.
and what advice would you give to fresh college graduates? So this is my personal question, but I hope it will help people
Okay.
who are out there.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I think it's very important, right? Like marketing and sales are very important. Marketing less so. You learn marketing as you go along. Sales is very important, and you can generalize sales because sales doesn't have to just mean selling a product. Sales can also just be making relationships, raising money, making people think of you in a positive way. All of that is kind of like sales. Like everything in life, no matter what job you have to do some sales work. That means that you have to get people to listen to you or to buy what you're selling or to give you money or to, generally do what you want. This is a really, really important skill. And I think that, as I said earlier, it's one of the best times ever to be a young developer or just a young tech enthusiast in India because of the infrastructure that we're building, the things that are happening at a macro level. But it's really important, in addition to learning and double clicking and going deep on the technical side, people actually work on communication because that's going to serve you really well. I think that learning how to speak well, learning how to articulate a point, and do so in a way which is, friendly and charming, and is really, really important. It's going to help you out no matter what business you're in, no matter what kind of app or product you want to make. So super, super important.
Yeah, I think that's a super point. And honestly, guys, if you are building a product right now, right, in this hackathon, maybe you have decided on an idea, maybe not, but whatever you do, remember that actually pitching that idea forward is a part of the whole process. And like Aaryaman said, that it's not just about the technical skills; it's also about communicating your idea clearly, because otherwise you're doing a disservice or you're underselling yourself. Okay, and most of the tech guys, at least in my experience, learn this the hard way. So we build a product and then we start to think, how do you
Yeah.
actually pitch this? Part of, in my personal experience again, part of the product is actually based on how you're going to pitch it, because when you think of how am I going to sell this product, is when you start thinking about what are the actual use case of these products? How is it actually going to help people? So then you can also think of the requirements like backwards that way.
Yep. So I would definitely say that, if you do think that, you have room to grow in terms of your public speaking, in terms of, your language, in terms of different things like that, definitely do invest time in that, because it will really give you rewards in the future. So Gaurav, you've helped hundreds or thousands of, engineers and students kind of get jobs and get placed through your website, through talks that you've done. What would you say is your advice to people who are looking to become builders or looking to join the workforce at tech companies?
Well, the best thing that you can probably do is get an internship. Okay, that would be awesome. You work for a company, you get a lot of perspective as to how do things actually work. And the strange thing for most people who are joining companies without an internship, or who are joining their first internship, is that the technical knowledge they gain is okay, because it's not really that you learn a lot of math in the first 2 years while you're in the industry, but you get a lot of understanding about how do you work in a team. And working in a team is not about high-fiving people and saying that, hey, today we are going to do something big. It's more about being as professional as possible, getting things done as efficiently as possible, learning about Git, which is a collaborative tool for you writing code, code reviews, and how to not to mess up other people's code, which is basically testing. So I can say these things, but the easiest way to learn them is through practice. So one would be internship. If that is not possible, that's okay. You have hackathons like this. Devfolio is actually doing a great job hosting these kind of hackathons. That's one of the reasons why everyone is so excited about it. And so hackathons, contests, if possible internships, that's what I'd say you should be targeting, because they make you stand out and they really, really help your technical skills go up like 10 notches.
So guys, let's keep this interactive, this session. Gaurav and I, so we like, I mean, Gaurav and I are both probably not much older than you guys are. We're still in like our 20s, mid 20s, and probably not, as I said, not too much older than you guys. So if you have questions, would love to answer your questions, and so just throw them in the chat, and we'll definitely come to them. Somebody asked a question of me in the chat, which is, how did I build up a VC firm? What have I worked on in the past? So I'll give you guys a quick sort of background about me. So I'm from Bombay. I did liberal arts in school just because I didn't know what I wanted to work on, and I liked history, so I studied liberal arts. But I realized at the end that I really liked tech, and that was the main thing I wanted to build my career in. So maybe this is useful to some of you guys. Like, just because you don't have a background in something, I had no coding skills, I had no tech skills, nothing. So I just thought, okay, I want to work in this field, so let me read, let me do as much research as I can. And using free online sites like AngelList, I found a company that was giving out internships, like Gaurav said. So I got a job at this company, which was Haptech. And working in that company, I realized I love startups, I love entrepreneurship, and I want to start a company of my own. At that point, I thought that if I want to be a founder, I should learn how to code. So I did some online courses on YouTube and things like that. I built up some skills, and eventually I started a blockchain developer tools company with some friends of mine, because we were all super interested in blockchain technology, which I'm sure many of you guys are. From that company, I had a decent journey. We managed to raise some funding and stuff from VCs, but eventually it didn't work out. So I left, and around the same time, AngelList was actually coming up. And AngelList is a very interesting investment platform which lets you pool people's money to invest into startups. So I don't need to raise a full-on fund if I'm on AngelList. I can just use AngelList to raise money from other folks who are on the internet who wish to invest in Indian startups. So that's kind of how I did it. It took a long time. I was really lucky in the sense that I got into crypto quite early, so there was some good learnings from there, and I had kind of built up like a little bit of a track record. But something that I think many of you guys will probably feel in your careers, and something that I feel very often, is like imposter syndrome. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, this is some next level stuff. I'm not qualified to do this. I don't have the skills. I don't have the credentials. That's a really common feeling, and that feeling stays with you no matter if you're 20 or 30 or 50. I think if you're doing something new, that feeling always exists. But what you guys should know is that everybody feels that way. In every single profession, in every single field, people sometimes are out of their depth and they don't know how to do it. Many fields are so new that they didn't even exist like 5 years ago. Like there was no Matic, there was no Ethereum 5 years ago. There was no industry. So people who are doing it now, they don't have 10 years experience because the thing didn't exist. So you have to move past that feeling, and the way that but you have to be humble in terms of knowing what you know and don't know, and also proactive and going out to actually learn and teach yourself the things that you don't know. And luckily we live in an age when information is super abundant online, and you have great resources and educators like Gaurav who make so much of their learnings available to people. So go out there, learn things, and be self-confident. Don't think that you can't do it just because you don't have experience or you don't know. It's only by learning and doing that you actually move ahead. So I hope that answered the question.
I think those are some great points, Aaryaman. In
What
fact,
about your journey, Gaurav? I think it'll be interesting for people to hear about, like your journey as well.
my journey honestly is very similar to yours. You just mentioned that you had gone to liberal arts because you went like very concrete with the field that you wanted to choose. And with me, what happened is it was the exact opposite, but with the same feelings, in the sense that I joined computer science not knowing what I wanted to do, but they said that computer science is the highest ranked engineering degree that you can get. So if you get good marks, then you should go for computer science. Otherwise, you go for electrical, otherwise mechanical, and then there's this nice little list they have all the way down to metallurgy and naval technologies. So I said, okay, let me go for the top because that's supposed to be good. Now, till this point, no decision in my life, no major decision in my life was made by me. So, and that's one of the strange things, that you don't take any responsibility for your decision, assuming that you don't have any control, which is not true. But luckily, when I joined college, I realized that wow, this is something that I like. And now, on the other hand, if I was given that choice now, I would say that I would try to research as much as possible about what this is and does it appeal to me even in the slightest, because I didn't know anything about programming till I was in the first computer science lab. I was sitting inside and we are typing out random words essentially into a terminal to see if something that is expected comes up. Otherwise, it's going to be a stack error. So I don't want to see that happening much. Hopefully we can fix that part of the education system ourselves, maybe. But anyway, the other part of the journey was, like I said, when I joined my first job, there was a big difference in what is expected and what I knew. So I knew about algorithms, I knew about solving mathematical problems, and what was expected was that you could build useful applications for people, or at least handle services. So there was a big difference there too. So like you said, every step of the way there was a point when I felt like I'm not cut out for this. There's no way I'm going to understand all this stuff. And there's going to be positive characters in your life who are going to say that yes, you can do it, and there's going to be some people who will question you. The important thing is to just keep pushing, every day, and you'll see some change at least. But Aaryaman, I have this question for you. It's something that I have seen is very, very interesting in hackathons. What do you think is the importance of choosing an idea and then checking whether it is financially sustainable? Like, if 3 years down the line, will this idea still be working by itself, or does it depend on external, donations or something?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, there's many different kinds of projects that you can build, and in hackathons, I think that the Devfolio team will tell all of you guys the criteria along which your project will be assessed. So make sure that you read that. However, Gaurav's question, I think, raises an important issue, which is that when you're building something, you should be clear about what is the future of that thing. Does it have a future? Is it self-sustainable? It's okay if it isn't, in the sense that, if you're building, let's say that you're building a developer tool, let's say that you want to write a library that will do X, Y, and Z. You can say, hey, look, I will write a library, I'll open source it, I'll maintain it for a bit, and if I lose interest, I lose interest. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And that may or may not be considered a good hack, depending on the rules of the hackathon. But many times what people build in hackathons is like a product which they think, okay, this will become a business, or this will become like a startup. Now, when you're thinking of that, you need to really keep in mind, like, what is the problem that you're solving and who faces that problem? How much of a problem is it for them? Is it something that they would pay for? Are there alternatives which they could use which are as good, which are free? Think about these things, because in my opinion, for a good hackathon project, it needs to be cool, it needs to be well designed, well developed, but it should be something that you've thought through, like what is the life of this thing, what is the utility of this thing, right? Like if it's something which nobody is ever going to use, then is that worth doing? I mean, can you work on something that might be used by some people? It's okay if you don't take your idea forward and make a business out of it, but it's something to just think about as you're developing your ideas, is that does this thing have demand? Can I generate demand for this product? And if so, how will I distribute it, right? Like how will I get people to download it? Because just paying for ads is very expensive, it doesn't make sense. um, maybe you're building something for farmers, and maybe you say, okay, we'll go through like farmer help groups, and we'll try to infiltrate like Facebook channels or WhatsApp groups or something. Think about distribution, think about sustainability, because even though your project is the hack, and that's what you're building, and that's what you'll be judged on, it's important to have a picture around it so that it's a complete thing, if that makes sense.
Yep. I mean, there's a lot of questions also out there which you were answering on the go, pretty much. I think because
Yeah.
some of the questions were around this only, that
Yeah.
can make it sustainable. What do you take as the next step?
Yeah. There's a ton of questions out here. Should we just go through a few? How should
Yeah,
we get started about public speaking and presenting what we've built upon? It's a question from Hemant. I think Hemant, that's a great point. You should watch courses. There's a ton of excellent free content out there. So I would say, there's two things. One is education. The second is practice. Like if you just watch videos but you never put them into practice, you'll never actually grow your skills. So find opportunities to speak. It doesn't have to be, it could be even just to your friends or to your family or at some small gatherings or something like that. It doesn't have to be huge. But only by practicing will you build up those skills. And find people who inspire you. Find people who you admire and borrow from them. Either borrow the way they speak or turn of phrase or certain words they use. But there's a saying that good artists borrow, great artists steal. So feel free to take things from people, like incorporate that into your own vocabulary. So just, I would say, practicing and researching online. So there's many great courses, like, there's of course paid ones, but there's a ton of free ones also. Avikant has a question: specialist or generalist? I think at this stage, generalist. Like it's important to be well-rounded and to have experience doing many different things, whether that's stuff on the front end, back end, get your hands dirty with a bit of DevOps, do some machine learning and ML, understand how these things work, understand how they work at a conceptual level. Like the objective is not to say, हाँ मुझे Java आता है, मैं class लिख सकता हूँ, whatever. Understand like what it is. Understand at a conceptual level what a concept is, and then I think that'll serve you well, and not just in tech. So it's important to also do things on the business side, even if you are in tech. So as I said, sales or product management, speaking to customers, speaking to users. So generalist. And but of course, if you are passionate about a subject, like if you are passionate about machine learning or passionate about blockchain, by all means go deep. By all means do that. But that's my question. There's a question for you here, Karthik. Why do I call you Karthik? There's a question from Karthik for Gaurav saying, what should senior engineers do to get placed at Fang or similar startups?
Yeah, I think one of the things that you can do, Karthik, is I made a video on this on the YouTube channel for interview preparation that does talk about this. If you're looking for something specific, let's take that on the YouTube channel. Maybe you can comment in the video itself. But in general, yeah, the few things that you need to look for is system design, algorithms, and it's covered over there. Now, there's another question here that would you recommend? So Roshan Joshi from MBJCE asks, would you recommend engineering students to learn new technologies, or would you recommend to get good at competitive coding? I would say it will be a mix. Hopefully, if you're in second year or something, I'd say focus on computer programming because it helps build your algorithms base and is exciting. It's easy to get motivated for such things. As for ML, data science, web dev, DevOps, like Aaryaman mentioned, yeah, you can be looking into all of this stuff in third year and hopefully fourth year also, so that you get a general idea of how these things work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Guys, I think the most important advice that like anybody can give is is just to be curious. Like just remain curious, remain intellectually hungry to find out how things work. I don't know how many times you guys do it, but like look at the technologies that you use on a daily basis, right? You use stuff like Postman, you use HTTP, you use HTTPS, TLS. These things are very interesting, and I would say that if just by googling and searching on YouTube for answers to a few questions about these things, you will expand your knowledge base so much that will really help you make connections between different technologies, between different fields and concepts. So just be curious, and like if something really calls out to you, like some people really are interested in blockchain, some people are really interested in IoT, some people are really interested in AI. All of those fields are awesome. They're all amazing. If you find something like that, then you're lucky. Then go deep. Go satisfy your curiosity by just learning as much as you can. Nothing is going to replace that.
Yeah, in fact, one of the most important reasons why I got placed out of college was a hackathon. It was a hackathon by IBM, and we learned a lot on the way. We kind of over-engineered the product, but that was better than under-engineering it. So, yeah, if you like something, let's say stored procedures is something that I liked, and so I took it to a really maybe unnecessary level. You can say that I was trying to stuff in Java into the stored procedures, and then I was trying to generate PDF files and store it in the database itself. So there was a lot of logic, application logic, which was specific to the application, which was coming onto the database. Now, as a senior engineer, I kind of know that that's not a good idea, but still, I mean, at least I learned stored procedures. Otherwise, the other thing I could have done was just stay and do nothing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I see a lot of people, Gaurav, who are asking this question, which is actually the topic of our talk, right? Which is like ideas for building. And I think we both don't want to sit here and say, "Ha, tu ye bana, tu wo bana," like this is what you guys should be doing, but rather kind of giving like a framework, right, for like what or some guidance around like a few things that we think are important to keep in mind as you build.
Around that argument, that's the other question I wanted to ask you. I've noted this down. Is there a checklist of things you do to vet your ideas, like just to make sure that your idea is nice? And how important is the diversity of opinion of how important is diversity of opinion when considering one's options? I write English well, but I can't read it very well. That's one of the problems.
So some things, and I'll paraphrase this because I see some people in the question section who are asking, that they've got an app and now they want to begin getting users and audience and a few questions of that nature. But basically, there's no magic bullet. There's no shortcut. It's literally just like common sense, right? So sometimes you think of a problem and that problem appeals to you or that thing appeals to you. Okay, before you even get there, make sure that when you are building something, you are building that thing to solve some problem, right? Not just because blockchain is cool and I want to build something using blockchain, but actually nobody cares about the thing that I'm building. I just want to use blockchain in it. That's not going to help you in the hackathon. That's not going to help you in life if you're starting a business. There's a term that people use to describe that kind of approach. It's called, when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So don't pick up a hammer and try to just make things because you want to build something with deep learning or because you want to build something with blockchain. Think about what you want to build because there's a need, because there's a problem. So it could be the case that, have you guys heard of Khata Book? You've probably heard of Khata Book. It's a new startup. There's many companies in that category, but basically, okay, not many hearts, not many things. I'll tell you what Khata Book does. Okay, Khata Book basically is an app for small merchants where they can record their transactions on an app. Okay, so there's more than 60 million small businesses in India, and way more than that, there are like panwalas, bhandars, all these things. Now, if you go to these stores, those banyas, they sit and they write everything down in a book. That's how they're used to doing things, and it served them well so far. But we are now living in the internet age. We're living in an age where most of India has a smartphone and access to the internet. So can't you build something for that? The answer is yes. So it is very simple product. Khata Book has raised tens of millions of dollars of VC funding. And look, whether or not they make it as a company will depend on their ability to monetize. But we're talking now about what to build, right? They found that, hey, there's people who have this problem, and they started building. And to come back to your question, what is a checklist that you have? First, first find out who do I think faces this problem? Then find out from those people in their words, through surveys or through conversations, is this a problem that you really have? If I gave you this solution, would you use it? What are the features that you would value? Would you pay for it? If so, how much? There's literally no shortcut around this. It happens in conversations, Google Forms, you post it on Product Hunt as an idea, you post it on online forums. That's really the only way to kind of go about it. But yeah, that's the number one thing to do is you vet your idea with user interviews, and then you figure out later, okay, what will it take to actually build it? But I would say first figure out, is the demand side there? And of course, then you figure out, can you make money doing it? But that comes later. And I think for a hackathon, building something cool is probably is more of a priority than figuring out a business model. But in life, you will have to answer both questions, which is do people want it, and also like how will it make money and be sustainable.
Okay, I completely agree with you on that. There's in real life, also in hackathons, it would be nice, but I think one of the challenges for finding out whether this is going to sell in a hackathon is because you have so little time. It's hard to tell if something is actually going to work out. Just Nitesh has asked this question twice. It must be really important. Gaurav, this hackathon has people from different aspects. I mean, how we compare a software project with a IoT project. So how do you compare different projects? There's quite a few criteria. I'm sure Devfolio has that. InOut, the judges have that. They're going to be giving you scores based on those criteria, and then you just you trust them that whether they're good or not. And if you don't trust them, also that's fine. You can take your project and continue it after the hackathon. Also, the prize money is one thing, but the world is a big place. Okay. I just spoke against Devfolio. I'm going to be pulled up for this, but okay.
You're going to be banned from InOut in the future.
How do big organizations deal with huge data and requests to their servers? When I make stuff, I don't think about it as I'll not have many users, but they do. Keval is asking this question. They have a lot of people also. So they have huge data, huge requests, huge servers. They have huge staff also. So
yeah,
the way you can think about this is maybe that there are lots of people who are experts at this. This is one of the reasons why I say that financial sustainability is so important, because if people are willing to take out money from their pocket and give it to you, saying that please take this, like let's say Uber, okay, you need a taxi, the taxi comes over here, they pay you for that. That shows that the product that you just sold them or the service that you just gave them is worth more to them than the value that they just gave you in terms of money. So which makes it financially sustainable, which makes it possible for you to invest in larger resources and help more people. It's one of the things, Aaryaman, that I have seen in hackathons, especially with fresh young graduates, is that they want to make a big social impact, which is a great thing. They want to use cool technology, which is another great thing. But one of the things which is missing is that they forget that without financial sustainability, this project is really not going to work, because you're going to let go of this in 6 months, and it's not going to go anywhere. It's wasted effort from your side. Unfortunately, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And one good thing that you can do, even if, like you said, Khata book, for example, let's say I come over here and I'm a really pessimistic person. I say, Khata book, it's not changing the world. What is it after all? Keeping tabs of people? No. What Khata book is doing, they're not paying me, so I'm telling you honestly. What it's doing is that if they're employing more people, that's a good thing. If they're paying taxes, that's a good thing. If they are allowing willingful transactions, people actually coming forward and paying for their service, and it's benefiting both parties, that's a good thing. So you just need a working product, and you're taken care of in the social aspect of things already, pretty much. So focus on that.
Go ahead. Yeah. I was going to say that something doesn't have to be a startup for saving injured puppies for it to be valuable, right, to society. Like even like games are valuable, right? They help people cut stress. They help people, have fun with their family and friends. So don't think about the only things that deal with, let's say, assisting the poor and feeding people are important. Like everything is important, and that's what a free market does, is it will value something according to how people view it. So again, my number one advice, and a lot of people are asking this question, is how do I get started thinking of ideas for this hackathon? We can give you some tips, and we can point you in the direction of some resources, which I'll post in the chat, which you guys should check out. But my number one tip would be, it's very tempting to experiment with new technologies, and there are a ton of very interesting and exciting technologies that are out there, right? Like blockchains and cryptocurrencies, AI. Like there's a ton of stuff which is very interesting, and by all means, do play around with it. But don't approach it being like, हाँ मैं ये blockchain कहाँ पे लगा सकता हूँ? Like just start by saying, okay, what are some topics that I care about? Maybe you really love sport. Maybe you really love, something else. Maybe your family has a problem, in one field. So figure out something that you can kind of relate to, that you care about, and then figure out, start there. Start with a problem, start with a need. Don't start with a technology, or start with the passion. If you're passionate about something and you want to build from it, start there. But don't just start saying that, like somehow I gotta like apply a GAN, right? Like it's not. It's probably going to be a very weird project that you produce in that sense. And it could be anything. Like don't feel nervous. Don't feel bad. Like okay, the best thing I could think of was this. It's not good enough. Let me go and copy some idea from some other hackathon that happened in the past. Don't do that. Don't be worried. Don't be afraid. I'll tell you, in the past, like I heard about a hackathon which my friend organized, in which the idea that they came up with was a way to put income verification into something like shadi.com, so that it can read from your bank account and people can see that iske paas actually itna paisa hai. That was just a feature, you know what I mean? Like it like you might, and that won because it was a very unique, novel idea. So it doesn't need to be some crazy thing. Have confidence in yourself and do what you are interested in. Don't do
No,
it because it's a hot technology.
That is super important actually. I mean, if I cannot see the income of this person who I'm going to spend the rest of my life with without it having verified, yeah, that's a really important deal. I was just talking about all startups are useful. I think I'll have to eat my own words soon enough.
Yeah. So okay, so
Okay.
I mean, like I think there are some things, Gaurav, you probably, you cover a lot of interesting technical topics in your videos, and I'm lucky to get a chance to work on a lot of the public infra here in India. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's probably a few things which we can mention, and you guys can then check those out if you're interested, and then check, get further into that. So I would say that in India, we have a bunch of public infrastructure, right, around payments, UPI, and now data sharing. So DevFolio has helped us organize 2 hackathons just this year to deal with financial data sharing and health data sharing. We'll post the links to those hackathons, to the the submissions, as well as the info, so you guys can go there, learn more about it, and even get access to the sandboxes. Like if there's a company you like or something like that, don't feel afraid to just email them saying, hey, I'm a student, I'm a developer, I'm participating in a hackathon. Can you give me access to your APIs? Can you give me access to your sandbox? Some of them will say yes. So don't feel scared. There's a company called kawa.space. They give you, they make it very easy for you to get data from satellites for geospatial mapping or different things like that. So check it out. I mean, one way to look at it would be looking at all the different API providers who are out there and what kind of data they give you for your APIs. Another approach would be to go, industry first. In India, every single industry is going really fast. Fintech is going fast. Agri tech is growing fast. Health tech is growing fast. These are all great fields. As I said, try and focus on a problem. Gaurav, what are some technologies or what are some cool things which you've been covering, which people can learn more about? That's such a vague
So
question. I'm just asking you to tell
yeah,
people
it
about
is
emerging
slightly vague,
technologies
but
that
I
exist in
think
the world. Yeah.
no, it is vague, but I'll answer like similarly, like generically. One of the interesting things that's happened recently is cloud computing. It's helped people a lot. So I have a so I think most important things when it comes to cloud computing, one is containers. That helps you if you get to know how they run. So virtualization containers. Two would be, many people have done it, but just getting to know how does a website run. So buy a domain name, maybe really cheap, 99 rupees or something, if possible. Take all 4 members and then create a domain. I mean, buy a domain and try to host your website over there. And you get to know a lot of things. Like people who are not in tech, usually they don't know what's happening when they're typing something out. Like over here, you guys are on airmeet.com. Airmeet.com is nothing. It's just a name of a place. But who decides enemy.com points to a particular computer? It has an IP address. So there's some big guy in between who's doing all the coordination and the routing. So that's the DNS. So a lot of your concepts actually get cleared up when you host your first website, and it's quite interesting to see how you react to all these new concepts, because even as a software engineer who's worked for, let's say, 1 or 2 years, a lot of this stuff will be exciting because it is mirrored in what you build every day. As either microservices or monolith, mainframe, doesn't matter. You're going to see a lot of things come up, because if you're working on a monolith or mainframe also, you're going to be seeing the internals of the computer kind of be pulled out and made into a large distributed network. That's what this is. So no specific technologies as such, Aaryaman. I'd say like Kubernetes is super hot right now. There's some databases like, I don't know, Firebase is something that people are talking about a lot. There's Google has actually opened up a lot of its APIs. Some guys are fans of AWS, but yeah, in general, I don't want to align towards something, but this is good.
And I guess the advice that we were just giving a second ago was don't don't start chasing these technologies, right? Chase problems and chase actual use cases. Technology is just there to help you achieve something. Like, you don't get any points. Like, nobody, for example, there's a ton of like really cool programming languages and frameworks and stuff like that like barely anybody uses. And just because those technologies are so cool, like the way that, it compiles down or whatever, that nobody gets points for that in real life. Like, unless somebody uses it, like that thing is not useful to anyone. So start with the problem, start with the use case, and then go from there.
Absolutely. There's this guy, Patrick Winston. He passed away recently, MIT professor at AI. And one of the important things that he mentioned when it comes to solving a problem is that you first define the problem, then you represent the problem, then you make a model, and finally you get to the algorithm. And he's seen this a lot. He had seen that a lot, that people would come in and say, neural networks, what's your problem again? So it would be such a backward way that you have a graph and you have already selected this node has to be traversed, which is basically neural networks. I have to touch this somehow. So then you twist your path somehow to hit neural networks. And he was pretty critical about it. Later on in his life, he saw neural networks become really big. So it was surprising for him, but that advice is like evergreen. It's always going to be there. Don't select your algorithm, select the problem, and then see what happens. Okay, Aaryaman, one final question, that I'd like to ask you. This is an important one. Is that when you're thinking about the challenges of putting a product, like making a product public, what do you think is easier? Is it directly giving it to customers, or is it solving problems for businesses, or solving problems for large companies, or even making a platform? Which one would you find easier?
Are you saying B2B or B2C?
Yes, those are the technical terms. I get scared when I say this.
The technical terms. So basically, you're saying consumer-facing businesses, like individual-facing businesses, or business-facing businesses?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's like a better or worse, right? Like, I mean, both. Everybody uses. Everybody's heard of or used services by those companies, either indirectly because their school or their college or their workplace employs a B2B company, or directly like a B2C app like Tinder or Uber or whatever, Facebook or something like that. And I think they have very different ways of kind of building them. I mean, consumer companies are super fun because you can just ship something, right? You ship something and like it goes out to like all your users, and you have direct conversation with those users. Like, you're not selling to a company, which requires like you to go and meet the company and talk to them, understand their needs, work with their procurement team. Like, it can be like a much different process. So B2C is, I would say, if you get it right, it's really fun, it's really interesting and exciting, because you can just build and ship and that's it. Your product is in the hands of many people. Whereas B2B is something where you need to actually think a little deeper about, because businesses don't make such hasty decisions as customers. Like, as customers, we can just download an app and delete it in 10 minutes if we don't like it. But as businesses, think a lot before they buy something, and that's something which you need to think about, which is that there's something called a sales cycle, the amount of time it takes to sell your product to one new business. And optimizing your sales cycle can be a very difficult problem. However, I would say in B2B, something that you can do is you can actually follow the money, in the sense that if you look at certain businesses and you see what they spend money on, sometimes they spend money on processes or software that's actually not that great or not that new or modern, which can be disrupted by newer technologies or ways of working. So sometimes you can discover a problem like that by saying, hey, actually, pharma companies spend a ton of money trying to do, trying to whatever, like reach doctors and try to build relationships with doctors, but they don't do so in an efficient way. They use paper and pen. So maybe we can actually replace that with some app, right? So that kind of thing it's easier to come up with a use case if you look at a business and discover their problems. But at the same time, you can do that with consumers as well, right? So I have no idea which one is. There's no better or worse. They're both really cool, and I think for hackathons also they're both equally viable. Can you guys hear Gaurav?
I'm sorry, I had muted myself.
Oh.
No, so I was just saying that the thing that I heard you say, which is the only thing that registered, because I like my narrative being completed, is you mentioned that B2B is tougher to do. I mean, it's tougher to make the sale, but it's also it pays off also larger. But one interesting point that I wanted to talk about over here was expecting that a B2B or expecting that a business will definitely buy your product should probably not be part of your product. Okay, in this hackathon, if you build something and say that the railways is going to definitely buy this one, that's not the case. So if you make a complaint portal for the railways, okay, that's extremely dependent on the railways actually accepting your complaint portal, because your original customers, your end customers are going to be normal people like me, but you also have this guy in between who has to accept your product, and that is the Indian Railways. It's a big deal. And actually, Denver told us about this. The guy who's named after a city, he said that it's important to not. Why did I say that? Why did I say that? Okay, it's important not to. Yeah, I think Aaryaman, you can take it forward. Yeah. Because I just lost my train of
I think what you're trying to say, Gaurav, I actually have no idea what you're trying to say, but if I had to guess what you're trying to say, you'd be saying that whatever idea you're coming up with, it's in your own head, everybody thinks that ye chalega, ye zarur chalne wala hai. Like, this is definitely going to work, people are definitely going to buy this, but get some validation for your idea by speaking to actual users. And even if your project relies, even if you're building a complaint portal for the railways, you can't just say that, okay, these guys are definitely going to accept it and then they'll get 100 million users in a week or whatever. But think it through, why would they use it? What problem are you solving for them? How would you pitch it to them? Think a little bit deeper about it. So we'll share some links with you guys. I mean, I have a few that I'd like to share for resources for hackathons and stuff like that. And maybe you'll find that useful. If you have found this useful, then you can answer my poll. And we'll know how badly or well we've done. But
apologies.
I should have saying some intense stuff in the chat. JavaScript devs will die eventually. It's hardcore.
What?
I mean, everybody's gonna die eventually, guys. So, okay, wow, 96% think it's useful. Thank you so much. That's amazing. That's Gaurav, do you have anything to add?
No. I think we should end on a high, because for some reason, despite I think we have answered most of the questions also. The questions that I had noted down, which is important, I feel personally, when a tech person is first getting into the hackathon scene, they are also answered. So these are all good, I think. And if anyone has any final questions, you can let us know in the comments. But otherwise, we are good.
Yeah. Oh, and guys, follow Gaurav. Subscribe to Gaurav's channel. He makes a ton of really great videos talking about different concepts, from system design to algorithms to interviewing and getting a job. It'll be useful. Follow me on Twitter. and listen to everything that Denver says, because he's the man, and be active on the Discord. So thank you,
Neil,
therefore,
are
for
you
having us.
related to Denver anyway, or is it? Oh, Denver's here. Okay,
Yeah,
I need to leave.
he's my cousin.
Okay, wow.
When you said that he's named after a city, it was offensive to me. So,
Really.
Okay.
Hey, Gaurav, great session until you until right at the end. Let's catch up after this. Yeah. बाहर मिलते हैं. Right.
There's nowhere to run during Corona.
That too. So let's see. Do we have any more of the questions, or are we done with all of them?
I think a lot of the questions which are addressed to me, guys, you can go to the YouTube channel. Some of them are also on cloud deployment and on Kubernetes. I think we can't send the second last question. So there are videos on that right now. It's not necessarily my channel. Also, of course, there's much more detail for Kubernetes videos that you can find in the Kubernetes channel or in Docker. So yeah, you can check those out if they're specific. Right, it makes much more sense to dive deep into technical resources. But otherwise, if there's something that you want to ask, particularly about this hackathon, there's Denver, there's us, and we can take it right here.
Yeah, and the number one most important thing, in addition to all the other stuff, is just have fun. Like, this is a great hackathon. You have a chance to win prizes. Just have fun.
Yeah, awesome. You didn't smash the table when you said have fun. That actually undermines
have
the whole.
Fun, damn it. Okay, thanks so much, Denver and Neil and everybody in the audience.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in and for asking us these questions. They're all useful. It'll be a great hackathon, I'm sure, and we'll be looking at what you guys build. So thank you, Denver. Thank you, Neil. And thanks to the organizing team. They do this selflessly. For the past 7 years, they've been doing this. It's an enormous achievement. I don't know the kind of effort that goes into this, because I can just tell it's huge. Okay, making this possible. So when it's over, you can just look back at them and thank them for making this possible.
Thanks a lot, everybody.
So just a few ending notes. And we're hoping, for the audience here, we're hoping that the session really helped you in figuring out what to make. It was a great session everything about ideas. One more thing that I just wanted to point out, that right now building in public is it's all the rage. And with quadratic funding, we've tried to put in a tight loop as to figuring out what is actually selling to the people. So the more people support you, the more you realize that you've been actually good at what you're making. So the entire process of what goes into making a full-fledged product, ideating, building it, and selling it. As I said, when you're able to market your product with the quadratic funding mechanism, you'll actually get to do all these things that are generally required in the real world and which are generally not associated with hackathons. So I was just talking to a participant yesterday, and what they mentioned was maybe a good way to get good ideas is to just talk to a company and figure out what specific thing that they need in their specific niche. So there's a lot of things going on in food tech, a lot of things going on in legal tech. So if you just reach out to a founder and ask them what small feature do you think needs to be built, and it's something that we can help you with. And most of these founders are pretty, if you just communicate properly, they're pretty open to getting external help. And if you make something really good, they might just put in a 5,000 rupees support micro grant onto quadratic funding, which will go a long way in helping you also get a big payout from the hackathon. And they might also just take the entire thing and use it, so that can also have a badge of honor that could be like your first acquisition. So feel free to be creative, market the hell out of your product, your hack you're making. And there's so many things going on. We have a whole host of sessions across the first ideating week. There are people coming in from legal tech, food tech. There are people specifically working in DevOps, front end, security. So we're just hoping that we're doing everything we can to make sure that you get the best idea possible. And yeah, that's it for right now. We'll have a session at 8 o'clock with Scott from Portis. We're hoping you can all sign in.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for joining. And to use Aaryaman's words, Gaurav and Aaryaman, you both are gangsters. Thanks for making it on the kind of notice we had. And the way you guys put it all together was simply amazing. I'll catch up with you guys later.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
See you, everybody.
Follow
Bye.
Aaryaman on Twitter. He comes up with some interesting tweets, by the way. All right, then.
Okay. See you, everyone.
Yeah. Last plug, yeah. Okay. See ya, guys. Bye. I'll
Bye.
just leave now.